Hello and welcome to another episode of G63 Dad. I am not in a G63 today. I've met my good friend Liam, who's a fellow business owner, and what I wanted to do is interview him, but the car doesn't have the right sort of format to interview him inside the car. More so, I don't have the right cameras, to be fair, mate, and it's absolutely hammering it down outside. So I brought him into a place that I spend a lot of my time, in the David Lloyd actually. I spend a lot of time working down here, and I thought what I was going to do today is we're going to just have a candid conversation about the kind of work that we do. We've got very different businesses, and I thought it'd be an interesting sort of look into the world of how digital business versus a more traditional business like what Liam runs is. So, Liam, mate, why don't you give the viewers a sort of insight into what your business is about, what you do, the kind of clients that you work with, how you operate on a daily basis, that sort of idea?
I mean, my business basically from, as you said, it's a more traditional background. We deal with utilities for any commercial clients, so places like this, exactly. We don't deal with residential because, to be honest, your Go compares, you compare the markets, they pretty much cover it. But commercial, it's a bit more of a minefield. There's lots more to it. We, the basic sense is we manage everything on behalf of large customers. But you don't necessarily need to be a large customer such as a David Lloyd or anything like that. I mean, you can be a single site, little small cafe. We basically, on behalf of these clienteles, when you think about it, when you run your company, you've got everything that you need to do. There's not just a matter of, it's not just open the doors and that's you making money.
Yep.
You've got everything else that comes at the back of it. You've got your staffing, you've got your time on, you've got your time off, you've got your accounts to deal with, you've got all these aspects. And if you imagine if it's a small business and you're trying to do all that and then deal with the utility side of things, which can be a minefield on itself, and it is one of these things that it's utilities. Billing error, just one thing, runs at 75% within the industry, but it's never in the customer's favour. It's always in the favour of the supplier.
Standard.
It's why you're always seeing your British Gases, your Eons, things like that recording record profits right now. It's not by chance, but where we come in is to try take that weight off of a customer. They don't need to worry about it. They can just focus on the running of their business. Every time they hear from us, it's bills are correct. If there is an issue, we're dealing with it for them on their behalf. So they don't need to spend the hours on the phones or going into the in-depth emailing trails or sitting with the complaint handlers or dealing with the ombudsman even when it gets to that level. Or if it goes even one step further and having to go into the court and having to deal with disconnection threats or debt companies, things like this. We use the term minefield. And it's literally every single customer, when we ask them 9 times out of 10, they turn and say, well, I don't know who I know I'm with this client, like with this supplier, and I know I pay this amount a month. Now, that's fine if you know, if that's working for you, but with this day and age, with how the expenses of everything that's went up through the roof, especially with the industry, with the utility industry, I mean, we were only talking 12 months ago, the industry went up pricing of 500%.
Aye, and everybody got hammered at that as well. It wasn't just like businesses, like
It was everyone.
everybody got absolutely destroyed.
And we seen it, a small client, if you then turn around and say to them, by the way, your bill's now going to be an extra like 55, 60%. I mean, how does a small business survive? So if we're managing that for them and we can predict this for them going forward, and we do that in multiple different ways. We can do it with year-on-year analysis of spend budgets. We can actually do budget projections for them to say that if you continue this way and this is what you're going to do for the next 12 months, this is what we're going to do for you. But we can also take a lot of that away from them. So they don't even need to worry about it. All they need to do is just pick up the phone, speak to us, or as we do for our clients, we do on a quarterly basis, we give them an overview to say, look, this is where you're at. This is what you spent in the last quarter. This is what you're going to do in the next quarter if you do the same thing. And it allows them to adjust pricing, in some cases staff levels, opening times. But then we can also bring a lot to the table as well. As in this industry, people don't realise there's lots of ways to get government grants to help out with things like solar panel and stuff like this. We can organise a site, basically we do a site profile. And a site profile allows us to evaluate that site to say, right, look, your lighting's not efficient or the water supply is not efficient, there's better ways we can make it more efficient. It could be the introduction of what's called a PIR, so this is passive infrared, for example, in a place like this, the showers. I mean, what's the point of having a shower on a tap if you were walking in here because you think everyone's going to turn it off? Are they hell?
No, absolutely
So
not.
these, honestly, this is where it might sound small.
Funnily enough, actually, the showers in here are on a tap, mate. They're no on a sensor. You just turn it on and turn it. They're wanting that responsibility from you, mate.
Aye.
Foolish.
Which we've seen it, and we dealt with not a David Lloyd, it was a similar clientele that had 12 sites. They were all sports centres, they all had tennis academies, they had pools, and the amount of wastage that we've seen the way back, I mean, I've been going 15 years. My old man previous to myself was 25 plus years. He was actually ex-regulator, so he was effectively the game changer. He was in the government and then became private when he seen
But I was just about to ask you there, because interestingly, I was about to say, how long have you been trading for the viewers, right? Because, like, I also was a regulator. And I've actually never told you that until now, on purpose.
There you go.
I also used to work for the energy regulator. So I worked in the same building as your dad at one point.
Yep.
Probably not at the same time. But then it's interesting to me, like, if you've been running for 15 years and you're talking about the grants, etc. So, like, this isn't going to mean anything to waste of the viewers, but, like, stuff like, for example, the renewable heating centre and stuff,
Yep.
or like the Eco 1, 2 and 3 programmes and stuff, I now realise that I probably dealt with you third hand
Yep.
whilst I worked for the government, and I didn't even know it at the time,
know.
because I had a hand in every single one of the programmes whilst I worked at the regulator.
That's it.
So that's mental that we've done business. Technically, we've done business.
Yep.
And I didn't even know who you were. And now I've met you later on, and I've discovered and I've done business with you,
Yeah.
which is mad.
The crazy thing about it is my company, even though it's been going for 15 years, is relatively small within this industry. Like, you have bigger players in the market. Now, what we find is, though, is bigger is not always better. That's what we've been finding, especially when we've dealt with large hotel chains. And we dealt with one of the biggest hotel chains in the UK, and the biggest complaint they had was they'd signed with this big time player, making them, well, supposedly saving them an absolute fortune, wasn't charging them for anything. And then when we found out, it says, no, they're actually charging you 6 figures, but it's hidden within fees. That because it's not deducted, i.e. there's an invoice, thank you for our service, they think it's costing them nothing. And these were the things that we've slowly but surely, we've drew customers aware to this, so that they can have more control over their spend. Because at this industry and this time that we're living in, everything's so expensive. So people want to know, right, I need to know what's coming out from my gas, my electricity, my water, because I've also got all these other costs that come out. So if they are able to have as accurate as possible figures, then it can help to do things like business expansion, maybe even diversify. I mean, that's one of the biggest things, because at the end of the day, keeping a business doing one thing, okay, yeah, you'll probably be successful. But if you're able to diversify and go into more areas within the industry that you're in, you're going to make 2, 3, 4 times the income, and that's always a better thing to do. So
That actually interestingly segues into sort of my core point of this conversation is that, like I said at the start, so we've obviously got very different business models, and both our businesses work. They work for us. Like, they're profitable. We make enough money to have an alright time. But like they're so different. And in my very first episode, I talked about starting side hustles, right? And I seen you'd liked it. I seen a wee cheeky like and subscribe on it as well, mate. Thank you. But like in that episode, I'm talking about, right, if you want to start a business, you want to start a side hustle, this is how you go about it, right? You figure out if your actual business is worth doing first of all, right? So now, obviously, your father, right, he's done that because he's been in the regulatory space. He's had the foresight and the internal knowledge, a bit of insider trading from there, right?
Yep.
He's like, boom, I know what's coming here. So he starts a business, you then get involved in that business. And he done that market research effectively to know that this stuff's going to come, it's going to continue to go. We're going to continue to have government grants, we're going to continue to have these problems. Started a business, which you then obviously moved into and ultimately taken over. And like he's done that, and I talk about that in the first episodes, like that, where you need to actually have a plan. The same as that, like I research my market first, right? And then inside that market research, the very essence of then taking it through almost, it's never going to be a side hustle for you guys, but like I started as almost a side hustle, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to build this into a business, I need to scale this into a business and make it huge. And I didn't realise that actually I don't need to make it huge. So you cover 2 points sort of simultaneously there, right? When I was like, right, I want to make this side hustle into a business, and I thought big is the best, and I took on, so me personally, I took on like 25 clients at one point, right? And I was like, I'm a baller here. I'm going to have make so much cash, and actually it almost crippled the business. It put me in the bin, right? So I'd done all the research and I knew what I was supposed to do, and I was like, I've got a great business model. I've done my research. I know how to run this. But then I tried to expand too fast. Took on loads and loads of clients, thinking it was going to make loads of bread, and it actually put me in the bin.
Yep.
And that bigger is not better is a really critical point to make. It's a great point because what I now do is I operate less than 10 clients.
Yes.
But I operate a super high quality service, and I operate with really high value clients rather than with multiple low value clients. I operate a select handful of very high value clients, and I pour all my energy and all my staff and all my resources into them because I know my business sells a partnership, right? So you've got maybe a customer sort of.
Yeah, it's a more sort of client customer, or
Aye.
client customer, and then there's us as the management, the consultant, best way.
So you're almost like a brokerage, effectively, right? Like you act as like that sort of point of contact in the middle that's got the expertise to sort of deliver their requirements with their actual supplier, right?
Yeah.
They're the customer, there's a supplier, and you're there.
Yeah.
Whereas my business is more, there are two parties involved, the creator and the administrator, effectively. I just think I exist ultimately as an administrator. And I think if you're interested in looking at OFM, that's actually how you look at it. Don't look at it as a, oh, I'm going to do this, this and this, I need to become a creator, etc, etc. You are an administrator, you're a gear grinder, basically. You need to figure out how to make the processes work and drive them, because everything's process driven. And even in your business it's the same. Processes drive revenue. Like, you need to do the same thing, the same right way every time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with our customers, it could be something as small as an invoice coming out and it's never estimated in the customer's favour. I don't think I've ever seen in a bill that's ever been estimated in a customer's favour.
Well, I tell you, right, even though it's not in the same arena, like my most recent set of bills, like, so when obviously all this sort of energy crunch started, like, you're probably like pulling your hair out in the office, right, sweating bullets because like energy bills are going up 500x. I'm sitting there, right, and I'm like, oh, I'm paying 130 quid a month for my fuel. Great, right, that's a great thing. Next month, I get a bill through for 4,000 quid, right, and they're like, oh no, you know it's £800 a month. Turns out the guy that came out to read my meter had read it incorrectly. Because they've paid this guy. This guy doesn't care. This guy's walking about in the rain, right? He's walking about outside in the rain, right? Chatting at everybody's door, reading their meter, right? For the various companies that are employing him. And then he submits that meter. He put in the meter reading incorrectly, right? Basically trebled my bill. So I owed them like maybe 1,200 quid. So my bill had gone up, and it had went up maybe for 130, say 250, 300 quid a month. But this guy, because of an error he had made, and I was just supposed to take that in the chin. Like, the energy company told me I was right when I challenged it.
And that's something we see on the commercial side. And if you can imagine it, if you take like a hotel that's spending tens of thousands.
It's no 4K by accident, it's 40K, it's 400K.
And we've seen it, we've came across some crazy situations of meters being billed that aren't even for that client, they're in another building.
My God.
And then we've got to try and decipher all this.
That happened to me as well. So when I used to live in a flat, right, and I lived at number 34. And then there was a block of flats on the side. It was a separate street, but the streets were they were backed onto each other. And I get billed for number 34 on the opposite side, right? They sent me the bill for number 34, and they'd somehow mixed up the meter numbers. And this woman had her heating on. It was a pensioner, it was an old pensioner woman. She was in the house herself, and she just must have the heating cranked constantly, right? And I was like a student at the time, and I'm paying like maybe 30 quid a month for my gas because I've never done the heat. I would rather put a jumper on than put the heat on at this time. And I get this bill through for 1,200 quid. Now, as a student, right, I didn't have 1,200 quid a month coming in, never mind to spend on heating,
extra just to sit there.
And I get this bill, and I nearly had a heart attack. And then I'm assuming, right, that she got the bill later, and she possibly did have a heart attack. But like, it was like, when I challenged them and said, this isn't my bill, they outright told me I was incorrect. They just laughed. They were like, nah, it is your bill, deal with it, please. And I think, like, the industry that you're up against, they just seem to have massive balls. They just assume you're an idiot.
Well, this is it. And
it's mad.
The amount of laws that are within the industry, if you don't know them and you don't know how to effectively play these suppliers at their own game, as you're talking about it there, the way we look at it is, if we're going to attack a client, a customer, like on behalf of a customer, and it's something like that, then we need to basically make sure that before we compile that first phone call, that first email with all this evidence, that we know what we're talking about, because we have heard of other clientele that run the same type of business as we do as consultants, attacked a supplier, went for them, and they've just ended up buried because they've went at it with they've quoted the misinformation of codes of conduct that you've to adhere to as a supplier. And then when we've heard it, it was like, well, that's not right. That's not the law. The law is this. Why did you say this? No wonder you're now sitting in a position of, well, I'm getting taken to court by the supplier. So that's why we always say it's an ever-evolving industry, that it never sits. It's an industry, I've always said, that it's one, it's always going to be around. Two, it's always evolving. The next big thing, personally, and me and my old man kind of had a wee bit of discussion about it over the usual nonsense going around the world about your Donald Trumps and stuff like this, but we kind of think the next big thing that we would like to look into is hydrogen. It's not been explored massively, but it has been in the past.
When I was in regulation at the time, like, energy regulation was my first government job. It's where I started in government. Before I so I went to the early government. Basically, I worked loads of departments, but energy regulation was the place I spent my longest tenure. And they were talking about hydrogen was a big one. And when I was at uni, there was a guy who built a hydrogen car, right, in the university, and he was never allowed to take it outside because there was a fear that it was going to explode. This guy, man, just built his hydrogen car. He just sat in the garage with it all day, taught classes, back to the car, back and forward. There was a lot of exploration about hydrogen when I was in regulation, interestingly, but there was also a lot of exploration for the UK about doing geothermals as well, which is just a way for them to basically dig a big hole so they can frack.
Aye, it's basically them saying that we'll do this. Again, what we call it's what's happening on this hand, but what's really happening. And that's the way we explain it to customers. I mean, we give customers like a monthly to bi-monthly update on the industry because, I mean, some of them will look at it and go, I really don't care what you're telling me right here, as long as my bills are all right. That's all they're caring about. They're just worried about the pounds and pence. But we've had customers when we've explained certain things, like, for example, see the recent government grants that were given to clients because of the huge spike of increase. So we had to learn. Now, it wasn't something that was in a book. It wasn't something that we had to go through.
Policy documents in it. There's a policy.
I mean, I remember one famous phone call that I had to a supplier, and honestly, I couldn't believe it. So we were reading the Government Energy Relief Scheme, and we'd read it online. We then also got our own papers that we discussed, and I'd had meetings with. I mean, I do a collaboration with a big brokerage, so my business is a consultancy. And then we have a brokerage side to us. And I had a meeting with the big guys on that business, and the two of us, we eventually got a grips on it and a good firm grips on it so we could explain it to our clients. But I always remember we phoned, there was a bill that came in for a client, and there was a section, the Energy Bill Relief Scheme was not being added correctly as per the percentage per that client. And we'd calculated it, we knew exactly what was to be spent. So we phoned them and said, look, this is wrong. And the person on the phone says, well, I don't know what to do because I don't understand it. I'm like, but hang on a minute, you're the supplier. You should know this.
You're charging us for this, bro. Like,
what are you
like,
doing? So right there, just again, and what we've found is through this period of people wanting to save money, we've actually gained more clientele because they're now that worried that, like, look, are these guys really trying to take the piss? Are they ripping me off?
So there's a key point there, right? A massive key point, right? In terms of one of the episodes I've done before when I was talking about like getting clients, right? How do you get clients? And one of the things that distinguishes my business from other businesses, in my opinion, and it is my opinion, and it always will be my opinion. I can't objectively say it's a fact because it's a subjective point.
Yeah.
But I would argue that our service delivery is better, our knowledge of the industry is better, right? Because we take the time to learn what's going on. We take the time to learn the regulations of the sites that we're running on. We take the time to learn all the social regulations, like for social sites, so for IG, TikTok, for you, they're all different. They've all got different requirements, right?
Yeah.
And what Liam's talking about there ultimately is you've done the same thing that we do in the sense that you've learned the game properly. And clients have just came to your business. And when I done my my outreach, client acquisition stuff the other day, I was talking about like, all right, you want to basically make sure that you're getting out good quality information. You want to make sure you're outreaching to people. You want to make sure you're giving them the stuff that they need. Figuring out if your service is actually something they require? Does it solve a problem, right? And if it does solve a problem, how do you then convince them that they've even got that problem in the first place and that you're the guy to do it? And what Liam has just said there is actually one of the big answers, is you need to prove demonstrably that you have got dominance in your market space. You need to prove that you are the most knowledgeable and the best at delivering the service you deliver. Everybody's got competitors. I've got competitors, you've got competitors, right?
Absolutely,
All you need to do is be 1% better than them all the time. And that's a moving scale because they're always chasing. So being 1% better every day ultimately is how you get more clients constantly and how you maintain the clients that you've got. That's how you maintain your bigger clients. That's how you make clients bigger over time. I suppose you're not responsible for making their businesses bigger, but like for me, making those clients bigger over time and then retaining them by having absolute top tier service is how I do it. And that's how you're retaining yours as well.
We retain and we've gained clients because, I mean, it's a strange thing to say, but we've never advertised. I mean, it sounds mental in a day and an age of social media.
It's a
and
weird
stuff like this.
Well, what we'll do is we'll do an advert now, right? So if you're watching this and you are a small, more traditional business, unlike me, right? I work from my home, I don't have an office. But if you have an office or a warehouse or you're operating a commercial property, then what I'll do is I'm going to tag your Instagram and we'll get your business listed up and stuff. And then if you need energy work done where you don't know where to get the best deal, contact Liam, he'll square you up. No matter, no, we do that super cheesy line, like no job too small.
That's it, yeah. I mean, we ran leaflets actually when I went to a local. I was invited back to my high school of all places because they caught wind of the business and they says, look, we'd like you to come back and talk to the business client. So I handed a flyer to every one of the kids that was in there and they all read it and they all went, we don't understand what you do. And I was like, that's fine. All you need to do is hand it on to your mum or dad who can then hand it on to someone else. I think I gained one client.
I mean, how much did that cost though? What's the day flyers cost?
I got them for £5 off of a friend of mine that done it for me as a favour.
Right, so let's do a wee ROI example now. Let's see. You don't have to give me the exact numbers, obviously, because that's uncouth, but roughly how much is that client's value? Well, first of all, have you retained that client? You still have them?
That client has signed up and they're on a monthly retaining fee of £100 a month.
Right, so he spent £5, right? And he's got a retainer for £100 a month. So that's £1,200 a year, so probably quite a small client, right?
Yeah,
I would
yeah. Small size client.
£1,200 a year, and he spent £5 to make. So that's, I don't even know the maths behind that, mate. It's like a 6,000% ROI effective. In fact, that is a 6,000%. Yes, fast maths. 6,000% ROI, £5 on a deck of flyers, hand them to a bunch of school children. That's almost child labour, mate.
I mean, yeah, you could class it as that. But I mean, it was one of those because the way I looked at it is there was kids in there that were saying, "Oh, my dad runs this company," or "My mum works for this company," and the one that ended up coming to us was basically a family-run business, and that's what it was. I mean, everyone else that either was like, "Oh, they worked for this big bank" or whatever it is. You're never going to hear anything. I mean, what we tend to find is, it's when we're coming back to about the size of clientele and then focusing. I mean, yeah, it'd be great to have all these big clients and have a portfolio you could look back on and go, that's great, I could just sit back and I'm going to earn X many odd thousand a month. But the thing with that is you then need to bring in big systems, you need to bring in big people. The way I've always said it's an old cliche is more money, more problems.
Correct. We're the same. We were actually talking about this earlier. So I was talking about scaling the business, right? And I was talking like how if we bring in employees, for example, right? Like non-partnered employees. So everyone that works with me is basically, I'm basically like the John Lewis, right, of my business. Everybody in my business has got a partnership stake rather than as an employee. Because if I take on employees, I need to hire an HR director. It's a legal requirement, right? So I have to bring an HR guy in, or woman.
True.
That's why I don't have an HR department, because I'm saying HR guy, right? Like I'd be fired from my own business in 2 seconds. But like, so I need to bring in an HR person, then I need to bring in a finance person, then I need to bring in somebody that can look at both of them, right? I need a board of directors in play, because then I need to obviously manage all of that. Then I need to attend all these meetings and committees inside my own business, because now I'm set up in that corporate way, because the government says that I have to do it that way, and it's like, no. It's like. That's scaling up.
Yeah, I mean, the gentleman I do business with, who has a large brokerage firm, I mean, when I say large brokerage firm, I mean, we're talking multi-million pounds, I mean, deals with data centre type size clients. I mean, these clients are humongous. I mean, we're not talking thousands of kilowatt hours or hundreds of thousands or even megawatts, we're talking gigawatts, like humongous users. And he's in that situation, he's a limited company and he's got staff. Actually, fun enough, you've just yesterday had a conversation with him on the phone. I'd done a couple of things at lunch, had a couple of meetings, and then afterwards he just gave me a quick phone call. And what we were doing, we was about to just have a general sort of, right, 2024 forecast, what I'm going to do with the LRB, what he wants to do with his company, how the two of us are collaborating together, and our push for basically for Scotland and Northern England. The call lasted 5 minutes when he got another phone call and he says, I'll need to phone you back. I'll say this, I'm still waiting on the phone call back because of how busy the guy is. And it's just literally from being pulled pillar to post, which is why I've always said to anyone that's ever wanted to do a business, make sure you attack small, get your foothold and build. Best way to look at it, you don't build a pyramid from top to bottom. You build it from the base to the top. And if you're going to build a business from the bottom to the top, you're going to be successful. If you try and go straight to the top, I can guarantee there's probably about a single percentage of clients out there, or single percentage of businesses out there that are sitting there going, oh, but that's what I did. And that's great if you've done it and it's worked, perfect. But
you got lucky though. You probably got lucky. Like I've seen. So I help other people in the same business as me, right? So I got a sort of partnership with my mentor, and I help other people in that mentoring space now, right? And I teach them how to basically run their businesses and stuff. And I've seen time and time again, loads and loads of people, they scale their business too fast. They take on 15 models, right? Because they've got a great persona or whatever, they've got a great marketing strategy. And they just take on hundreds of models, right? Take on hundreds and hundreds of clients, and then they don't have the staff to support it, and their business goes like this, and then it goes like this.
Yes.
It just collapses in itself. And then they're like, what went wrong? Why did all my clients leave? Why am I not making any money? And it's like, it's because that exact thing, you need to expand. And I'm going to do a full episode on scaling your business properly, because in the last 12 months, in running the business that I've been running now, and taking it to that 7-figure position, I could have achieved the position I'm in now earlier if I hadn't made the mistakes that I'd made. And one of the value adds for this channel is I want to give those mistakes back to people, right?
Yeah.
Don't make the mistakes I made. And one of the things you need to do is scale properly and effectively, like you're describing there, right? So we'll do an episode on that. That's like another 45-minute conversation on saying scaling properly, but like I'll do an actual mastermind on it, I think, because like I made loads and loads of errors.
But the thing is, if you're going to make an error in business, okay, if it's an error and it's going to cost you a bit of money, so be it. I guarantee you'll never make that same mistake again.
Don't make that mistake twice. That's you don't put your horn in the oven and then put it straight back in. Do you know what I mean? It's
exactly.
Like, that's just not a thing. Like it's very simple. It's actually the best analogy for it is literally your fingers burnt. Like my fingers have been burnt a couple of times in my business, and it was just because like I maybe thought we were a bit bigger than we are, or maybe I thought we could stride a wee bit further than we could, and it's like, oh, we'll just go for it and see what happens. And you know what? You lose and learn effectively. But what I think is a really key point, right? Like business is obviously about taking risks. When I was at uni, there was a guy called Hugh that taught me, right? And it's like, my initial dream, I suppose, right, was to be a project manager. When I was young and foolish, right, I wanted to be a project manager. I wanted to be the big PM, right? I was like, I want to be the big ticket in the building, right? Be the big PM, because I thought that's how the world was. And this guy Hugh embodied that, right? He ran his own consultancy, a Prince 2 consultancy, and big, huge projects he was running, like projects like the Wraith and stuff like that. He built bridges, he built buildings, right? And he made sure that the projects came together. Later learned that he wasn't actually building the roads and buildings, he was just the brain behind how everything got done, right?
Very similar to where some of our company comes in when we deal with, for example, one of our ex-clients who we used to deal with bought a building, demolished it, rebuilt it to what they were going to be doing it, and we overseen all of the infrastructure to get the utilities active in that building. So there was a bit of management involved there. There was an overall project manager, which is what he's done, and then we were there at the background doing our part.
You're one of the suppliers, basically. But he told me, right, this line stuck me my whole life. He told me, if you're going to get into the project management game, Stevenson, what you're going to do is you're needing to think, it's a maths equation. Risk equals reward. Risk is a number, and so is reward. So what you need to do is quantify that risk and ask yourself this question: is that risk something that you can control to get that reward? And the control is all about skill. So, like in business, risk equals reward. That being said, coming back to the point I was going to make, is don't just take mad risks. Like all the mistakes I've made in the last 12 months. None of them have killed my business because they were all measured. I knew exactly what I was risking. I knew how much it was going to cost if it went in the bin. And the ones where it did go in the bin, it's fine. Like maybe I done a project this year where I worked with a guy and I lost about 15k, and I just lost 15k into a hole basically because we invested in a project that just didn't work. And we were like, but we knew the risk, and that was a partner project as well. Not only did I cost myself that, I cost another business that as well. Like the guy that I was partnered with, guy I work with regularly, I speak to him every day. We done a joint up project. We spent about 30 grand on this project to research how we could use different apps, and it just didn't work. But in my old life, right, see if I was to turn around and say to you from my employed perspective, right, I've lost 30 grand on a project, I'd probably die of a heart attack about 4 seconds later.
Yeah.
But like, that wasn't a massive hit on the bit because I calculated that I knew that it's like running a crypto investment, right? If you're running a crypto investment, they always tell you have to be willing to lose it all, right? So only invest what you can lose. And that's exactly what you should be doing in your business is don't make big Hail Mary plays and throw everything in the bin and hope that you're going to win. Don't chuck all your eggs in the one basket.
No.
You need to take measured risk. Measured risk is one of the most important things, I would say.
I mean, this is my second business. I started a business years ago. I actually sold it. I mean, this is going way back to the credit crunch era. That's how long ago it was. And
2006.
what I learned from that business, and it was a completely different business. I mean, it was nothing to do with consultancy. It was in a completely different industry. It was all sales driven. But what I learned from the running of that company and foreseeing what I could see within the industry of credit crunch, people aren't going to spend money, there was sheer panic. I learned how to scale a business to a point where it was manageable for just me without overstretching myself, so I still had a life, because that's one thing. See the amount of people I know out there that have got businesses and you say, oh, what are you doing? And it's like Saturday, Sunday night and they're still working and you're like, you don't got a life. I used to be one of those people. I've slowly but surely tried to rebuild that.
Worse though, I was one of the people not for myself. Like worse, I was that guy for somebody else.
Yeah.
I done that for the HM government. I worked at weekends. I took my laptop here and worked at night. I started at 7 and I finished at 6, right? And I done it for nothing. Like, if you take anything away from this conversation that we're having today, take this away. Work your core hours because that's what you're getting paid for. The rest, you don't get paid for it. If they want you to do something extra, ask for the money.
Yeah.
Because if you came to me and asked me to do something today, I would tell you how much it cost and I wouldn't budge on it either. Right? Maybe a bit of wiggle, there's always a negotiation. But if you then turn around to me and say, oh, I want you to do twice as much work, I say, well, that is twice as much money, pal. Like, because that's how the world works. And like, employees don't have that benefit.
No.
Like,
and that's what, if you're employed, I've always said it to anyone that's employed, when your start time starts, that's when you're on the clock, as they call it. But see, as soon as that time off stops and you're off clock, don't be doing the job.
Nah,
I did it. I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
Get to the pub with your mates.
And it literally got me nowhere. I got so far, it was a good successful career, but nah, I didn't get there. What I find now is from what you put into your business is what you're going to get out. And for the first, I would say about 5 years, I ploughed every heart and soul, every minute I could into the business, to the point where I could sit back and go, I could take a holiday now, and I don't need to worry about it. Even if I do go on holiday, as we did, and I was still working.
Same, so me and Liam went to the States together, and I done a lot of work when I was in the States. I met a couple of my clients there. Like Liam actually met one of my clients there. We went to Disneyland. It was mad. We're doing stuff like that, and like I was actively working, and like I suppose different kind of work as well. For your like sort of third-party observation, a really bizarre type of work where like I'm on my phone walking about all the time, but like I'm actively working. It's not like I'm not like just walking about on TikTok like
what's happening here, what's going on.
Like I'm actively engaged constantly. So like even though I was away on a holiday, I wasn't really like I was absolutely hammering out. I signed 2 clients whilst I was on that trip. If you remember, I signed 2 new clients whilst I was on holiday. Like I drove halfway across the state, like all the way up and down the state, back and forward, meeting people, and then obviously I remember specifically I said to them, oh, we're going to get a pool tonight. Everybody was in the pool and we don't go in the pool. We were like, we'll play pool, but we're not going in the pool.
And sure I had too much drink. So
and he knocked me back. He was like, no mate, I need to do my invoicing. So it's like, it's not always even if you do work for yourself, I think like, there's a different kind of work, would you agree? Like, you're no restricted by that. You're not restricted by the chair and the desk, right? No. As I would call it. You're not getting into the office. Like, I work when I want to work. I work because I need to work.
Yes.
But I work when I want to work. But I also know the consequences of not working. So it's not like, it's actually really interesting. Like, there's an accountability factor. I think you'll probably agree.
Aye.
Like, you work because you must, because you have to survive, right? Everybody works.
Oh,
right?
we've all
But-
got things we want to do. We've got stuff we want to buy, etc. Like, we've got a life that we want to sustain. We also have our goals that we all want to get to and things like this as well. And if you're wanting to get there, then sitting down, doing not very much, ticking over. If people are happy at getting to, like, you know what, I'm quite happy earning 30 grand a year and I don't really want anything else, that's fine, that's great. I mean, good on you. But if you're then wanting to get that next step within a business, you're going to have to put in these extra hours. You might need to do these sacrifices, as small as it might be, as playing pool for a couple of hours or something. I mean, I think I did those invoices and I think I was sitting there for about an hour and 45 minutes, cleared all the invoicing out, and then I put it away for a good couple of hours, and I did some just before we went to bed that night, because with time difference, it didn't really make a difference. But had I not strategised myself like that while I was away, then, I mean, I couldn't ask anyone else to do it because it's myself.
It's you, you're
Yeah.
the accountable guy. You are the racing matrix, do you know what I
That's
mean?
it. I mean, I know my old man does help us out very part-time. I mean, at the end of the day, he's what now, nigh on 80-odd-year-old. Like, he's
You
been
can't
there.
be caught on an 80-year-old dude and run your business.
No,
'cause you
I
wanna
mean,
go
he'd
to-
rather sit
You
and
want to
play.
go to the States for 3 weeks, you know what I mean? Like, all right, just come in there 3 weeks, Dad, that'll be sound. That's
Exactly,
not going to
so
work. Plus,
he-
he's at the loop as well, you know what I mean? He's no,
He is,
he's not going to be
he's-
as sharp as he once was. Like, it's,
That's exactly it. I mean, with everything that's evolved, I mean, obviously we have our catch-ups to ensure that we're keeping on top and keeping everything there. But at the same time, there's lots of stuff I do within the company he doesn't do. So for me being away, I was away at friends' weddings and I've been working, I've been away on holidays, I've been, no matter what it was, I mean, it was away at a family event just actually last week, or even a stag do just the other week there in Poland.
well, I seen that, it's good pictures on his Instagram, man. Good,
Um,
good cigar photos, by the way. Very jealous.
But while being away, I had to work. I mean, it was as simple as that. I mean, it might have only been maybe an hour, and one of them I remember it was actually walking between 2 bars and answered 3 emails. I mean, it was as simple as that.
But it's that, so it's the microtransactions that are happening. Like, everybody thinks, here's microtransaction, and they think about COD, right?
Yep.
Like, oh, microtransactions in Fortnite, need to buy some chests, V-Bucks, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's the ranking of microtransaction. The microtransactions that are happening through the day. Like, even when I was setting up the camera, I answered a couple of messages, right?
Yeah.
Whilst I was, and I answered a couple of clients back when I was setting up this very video.
Yep.
Like, and then I dealt with a couple of things, and then we started, like, and that'll happen again when we finish this conversation as well. It's a madness, like how you change though. Like, you don't sit down and go, oh man, I need to do my work, and you've got, like, you know, you get 8 hours to, and your boss is, you know, chinning you and
Well,
asking you to do this, this, and this, and this.
The way
Like, it's
I've always looked at it is, I don't feel like I get up and I go, right, I need to be started by this time, right? Whereas before, like, if I was working, when I used to work in the financial world, it was like, right, you know, your start time is 7 or 8 or 9, and then your finish time was either 3, 4 or 5. It was like, I never feel like that anymore. Like, I feel like,
No, it's cool. Like, I just wake up and decide I'm going to start. Like this morning, so for example, right, and I spoke about it again in a previous episode, like, I don't know, I can't remember now. But like, if I've already spoken about it, I'll remind you, right? Like, I box twice a week and I do judo twice a week, right? Well, obviously I'm fighting in the next couple of months, I'm training for that. But like, I woke up this morning, right, and I knew I was going to meet you today, and I woke up, I took the way to school, and then I'm like, right, cool. Will I start work? Nah. So I'm going to the boxing gym. So I just won't do anything for half an hour. I could have done something in that half an hour, probably I could have. But, and in my mind I never actually would have done it, but I did answer clients, like I'd done a couple of things, I sent some voice notes, boom, boom, and so I've done actually a reasonable amount of work. But I never really seen it as work, I just seen it as me transitioning from location to location and doing stuff whilst I was in the move. Like Jordan came to collect me in the motor, and I was still sending voice notes and stuff whilst we were driving it where we were going. I get into the gym, hot the bag for an hour, get in the ring with my trainer and that. Got absolutely ruined. My forearms are actually burning still. She's absolutely smashed
You
us
should
in
do
this
strong,
one.
man. I'll enjoy that
She
as
just
well.
battered us in. But then, like, all that time, like, I finished, soon my training was finished, gloves pulled off, in between the sets and that, I'm checking it, I'm boom boom. And it's like, it just becomes like do you know what it is? It's a habit. That's the best way to describe it.
it's a habit.
It's a habit.
It's a habit. I would also say it's a healthy habit, but there's also, it can become an addiction. And I would also warn people about that. I, at one point, was literally, like, it was very, very early on. Like, I never used to have the internet on my phone. I mean, I'm that old school. I still have a PlayStation 2. That's the gaming I've got, by the way. So that's the gaming level I go to. I never added the internet on my phone. I had nothing. And then the first time I did, and the first thing I did was added emails. And I will say this, see, to begin with, I hated it. it was the worst mistake I ever made. However, it was also the best thing I ever did, because for about a good solid 2 years, I think no matter what the time was, a client could phone me, could email me, and they were getting a response, and I would happily see it within half an hour. I mean, even just the other night there, it was 11:50 at night, and I got an email off a client, and I emailed them back within 5 minutes of that email. To which they were responds of, "Why are you still awake working at this time of night?" And I was like, "Well, that's
speed,
this."
though, speed is the currency of good business, right? Like, that's been said. I'm not going to claim to have invented that statement. Speed is the currency of good business. I'm active as much as possible for my clients, and I will respond to them as fast as I can most of the time, unless I'm engaged in something, right? But broadly speaking, I will respond as fast as possible or deliver as fast as possible. Now, the only caveat to speed is like the main factor in good business, is that quality is the second and parallel factor to that.
Yeah.
Don't be fast if it's going to be bad,
No.
right? Be fast and good, right? Fast and good. So it's like that triangle in it. Is it going to be fast? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be expensive, right? Unfortunately, it has to be fast and good, and you just have to work out the price later on. But if you're fast and good, people will pay the price.
Well, aye.
They will continue. But so I found, right, you give somebody a high price up front because you're going to be fast and good, they're reluctant to pay, right? So what you have to do is, in my experience, maybe go in a wee bit lower, right? You lowball yourself,
Yep.
you're fast and good, and then you go up the price. Or like, you offer a free trial one for something like that. That's something I've done in the past. Tell you what, I'll give you a free trial one for a free trial week, and I won't even take any pay. I won't take any money for the first week. I will show you just how fast and good we are, and then we'll start proper for that week.
Yeah.
And I've never been knocked back on that offer, and I've also never failed on that offer either.
That's
because
it. I mean, as long as you've got to be confident, no matter what your business is, whether it's, in my case, consulting and within the utilities industry, within your case, within the management world, you've got to be able to be, first of all, confident. Whatever, if it's a new client, even if they know who you are, if it's been recommended by a friend or maybe another business clientele, we've had it. We get as I say, most of our business comes from basically word of mouth. Like, this client talks to this client, or this financial head's moved to this business, and then they've came with it. But if you show them the confidence of, look, we'll do this, and this is what we're going to do. See if they want it that bad, they will sign it. Whether it's a contract, whether it's a free trial, whatever it is. What I would say to anyone, if they are going to do that kind of stuff, is don't promise the world and underdeliver.
Oh, no, I'm a big under-promise or over-deliverer, mate. I love
That's
an
exactly
under-promise, over-deliver.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Always set out what you can do, explain your services, your situation, whatever it is you can do for them. But don't promise them the world. Literally, just keep it very, I would say, as you say, understate it.
Don't promise them the world. Promise them maybe a jar of dirt, right? And then deliver the world later on, bit by bit. Like, we definitely. The thing is, we're a business, we can't tell what's going to happen, right? So for you guys, for example, it's more predictable, right? There's a landscape to operate in. Whereas for us, it's a very 50-50 thing. So if both parts of the partnership don't do the stuff, then we won't succeed, right?
Yes.
I can throw all the resources and all the processes that I want, but like if the client doesn't engage with those processes and actually get active and work their socials and help us to help them, then it's not going to work.
Yes.
So we actually are quite conservative in our estimates, but the good news is that whenever it actually pans out, the client is always surprised and enthused. That's back from my Six Sigma days. We talk about that. We talk about Kano analysis, and Kano analysis says that you have to have a delighter, right? A delighter is the thing that you want to achieve. So like, you've got what's needed and what's desirable, and then as that diverges, there's a wee corner at the edge of the graph, and that's the delighter area, right? And that is a thing that they don't need and they don't expect, but when they get it, it blows their mind.
Yes.
And that's what we attempt to deliver every single time. It's always looking for an opportunity to deliver something that isn't even in our contract to deliver. It's really simple stuff. Like yesterday, right? So Jordan, obviously like yourself, I'm not really much of a car guy. I like one motor, right? I've got one motor I like. Liam's a huge car guy, and when you go on his Instagram later, you'll see that. Jordan, obviously a big car guy as well. No, their contract today. Right? Yesterday, Jordan sat on the phone with one of my clients for 45 minutes and helped her pick a new car because she's young, right? So she's like 22, 23. And before she had helped to buy a vehicle for her parents, she's moved away from her parents. She doesn't have any help. She was actually super distraught. She was like, I'm actually in the bin here. So she does an automatic, right? The transmission in it short, or the gearbox in the States, right?
Yeah.
I was like, what's a transmission? It's the gearbox. Gearbox is shot to hell, right? Won't pull away at lights, and she's like, I actually don't know what to do here. Jordan phones her up, no under contract to do this,
No.
right? But he phones it up, he spends 45 to an hour on the phone. He looks dealerships up in our area, right? He finds used cars, he finds new cars, he works out the pricing plan, he works out what's affordable, as if he's just buying a motor for himself, basically, right? And today she went away and actually spoke to a couple of dealers with the information that he had equipped her with. And that's a thing she would have never done on her own, right? So it's like, that's a delighter
Yeah,
there.
that's the delighter, and that's the sense of you've been delivering the service to them for that time, but then you've went above and beyond for that person, and that there on its own, if they speak to someone else, but by the way, look, I got this car, but it was through this lot that helped me, and this is how they helped me. It's like, oh right, so it's more of a personal service rather than it just being, this is who manages me, this is the company. It's like, no, this is a company, but they're all individuals. Because I noticed that with the clientele that we met out in Florida, the individuality between yourselves and all the staff even that were there, and the client that was there, you could see it's a relationship that's been there for a while, and it's not just a working relationship.
No, we've helped them with loads of stuff. I've helped our clients get mortgages, like give them advice. Like, I'm not a financial advisor by any means, right? We can give them financial advice in terms of, we can project much like you how much they're going to make roughly.
Yeah.
And if you do this, based on your current business position, this will happen.
Yes.
So if you do X, you'll either sustain or increase, so you can expect this much money per month. And obviously, some of the sums of money we're talking about, like in my line of business, like some of the creators are taking away 6 figures, and I'm talking high 6 figures. It's not just like 10k a month. Some of these creators are walking away with 50, 60, 70k a month, right? So it's like they want to basically take on big projects, they want to buy big properties, or they want to buy very expensive vehicles. Some of my clients drive supercars now, right? Like, well nicer than my car, right? Well nicer than the G63. G63 dad is sad. But right, like some of these clients drive actual supers, right? Lambos, one of our clients got a G-Wagon, right? It's well nicer than mine, raging. But they're doing that work. But it's like, can I afford to buy this? And then I'll figure out, well, I think you can, because in the next 6 months, this is how much you're projected.
Yeah.
But it's like we've got a very open, transparent relationship where they're willing to share their entire financial landscape with us for me to help them do that. It's not something I would do with most people. I wouldn't share my bank book with somebody, right? But like, we're providing that service. It's not part of the service we deliver, but the service that we ultimately deliver is like a one-on-one service.
Yeah.
I say to my clients where my involvement is, like I've got a specific part of involvement where like I deal with the clients directly to figure out how their business should function in the future, what their future business direction is. Jordan very much deals with the tech side and make sure that everything works for them. Nicole deals with the operational side, make sure the sales are happening for them.
Right.
And we've obviously got the sales staff that work for Nicole, some of which you know as well.
Yep.
And there's loads of different moving parts. And when they come to me, I just give them business advice, because my background was to advise businesses on how to be better. Like they say, this is what we should do, this is how we should structure things, and this is going to work for you. And I've found that like delivering that one-to-one service is what's been the key to the success.
Catered to individuality, which is where our two companies are. There'll be times where our companies will be exactly the same in certain things, and in one of those cases right there is each individual client you have is different.
Yep.
Irrespective of the fact that they might be doing the same type of job, they're all different. They all have different needs, and we're exactly the same.
Yeah.
Even if I'm dealing with two hotel chains that are both big, and they both got the same amount of sites, it doesn't matter, because this one might be needing this amount of service and the other one might be needing that amount of service. And it's about catering your services to them to help and, again, help them grow, or if they don't want to grow but they just want to make sure that they're being as efficient as possible and maximising their profits. It's a very similar situation there to yourselves. So each individual client is all individually looked after, which that's where we go back to the whole, if it's bigger, it's bigger. It's not necessarily
bigger
better, because you can't provide that kind of service. If you've got 100 clients,
For me in my industry, right, the messages we receive, everybody thinks bigger is better. Dealing with the actual clients, they all tell me the same thing. Bigger's not always better, lads. Stop that. Please stop that.
but yeah, I mean, it's certainly the way the two businesses are. As much as we're in entirely different fields, I mean, I don't even think there would be a crossover any which way.
Maybe one of my clients will have a commercial property that needs energy, mate, and you could help them out. But I doubt very much that there is a crossover anywhere.
That's it.
It's
But
mad.
with the two industries being so different, and as you say, mine's been a very, very traditional or old school, as I like to call it. It's an old school business. It's very, there's a contract, you want to do services with us, that's it, sign the dotted line, we'll help you out, we'll get you back running, and any issues, you don't need to worry about it. They can just focus on the running of their company. Compared to yourself, where it's not necessarily as black and white and as simple as that, because there's a lot more complex moving parts to it. And that's why we talk about the diversifying of what I'm now doing with diversifying the business into other areas, but it's all still within the utilities.
Aye.
And that's where I would say that, albeit two different businesses, they still grow the same way, but there's shared, I wouldn't want to say responsibilities, because it's not really a responsibility for a client, but there's shared aspects that are the exact same. And
I think every business is going to have that. Like every business needs to have good client management, good customer service, good client relations management. That's a necessary for every business. You need good systems and processes in place for every business. You need knowledge, you need good product knowledge in your space of the regulation or the papers, the consultations the government puts out, etc., etc. Knowledge of the actual the ombudsman processes, blah blah blah. I need the same knowledge about like the processes behind how the socials are managed, what the rules are, how do you appeal when something goes wrong, all that sort of stuff. So there are a lot of similarities, but the actual core business is totally separate. Now, it's almost time for me to pick the reins up for school, right? So what I want to do is I want to close on something, because I normally deliver my insights, right? But rather than everybody listening to me constantly, what I would like to ask you today, put you right in this spot here is you've obviously run two businesses, very successful businesses. You sold the first business, moved into the second business, you've run that business for a long time, a lot longer than I've been in business, right? So my insights are quite fresh, they're quite short term, right? And of course in that like 15, 20 year time span that you've been running businesses. In my first episode I talked to people about starting side hustles, and I was like, oh, just get into it and get it done. Figure out if it's necessary and then get it done. And I still maintain that. This 9-5 conversation we've had, finish your 9-5 when you're supposed to finish and start your side hustle if that's what you want to do. Pour that effort in and eventually it'll become your full time.
That's it.
But what advice would you give to somebody that wanted to start a business tomorrow? They're sitting right now and they're like, I want to start a business. What would you tell them?
First thing I would tell them is make sure you have a passion about that business. If you don't have a passion about the business, you're not going to give 100% effort. And that's where it comes into, is if you're not willing to put in that effort, you're not going to see any rewards out of it. And that comes from, as you say, starting it as simple as doing my 9-5, it's a side hustle to become a main one. It's exactly what I did with this business. This was a little side thing, I just helped out every now and again. Started it purely just to deal with water. And I actually thought, no, you know what, I really do quite like the diversity within the business. You never know what you're
as expensive as gas, let's sort that out.
Exactly, and I thought, right, but I'm enjoying the fact that I was working, I was literally going to I was within the financial world, and I was working your 8 till 5, your 8 till 6, whatever it was, and I'd come back and then I was working 6 till 10. And I enjoyed that bit more than I did. I thought, that old cliche of you get up in the morning, you go, I need to go to work, I can't be bothered. I enjoyed finishing my work to get to my side, as you say, the side hustle. And then when I decided to commit my passion and my time and my effort, I ended up walking out. I ended up going from being full-time in the financial world to I then dropped it down to part-time. So I then just went one day after a certain family incident that happened, and I was a bit unimpressed about how the company I worked for handled matters. So in no certain terms, I ain't going to swear, but I told them to and walked out the door.
It's the best way to quit a job if you're definitely never going back. Definitely getting what for. If you're not sure, then you need to go back. Probably don't do that.
No, but I walked out that business. I walked out that company 16 years ago, and I remember the day after I woke up and I walked through, had a coffee, was sitting there, and I said to my old man, I just looked at him, and he was still working at the time. And I just looked at him, and I was still at home all the time, and I just looked at him and I just went, what did I just do? What did I do yesterday? And he said,
I had a similar thing. When I finished my role, I had a very similar, I was like, have I done this? Have I actually done this?
And that's when he said, he's like, you've now got to basically, he's like, there's no help from me. He's like, don't think you've got...
You know what you've done there though, right? You've done actually probably the thing that's what really cuts you apart. Like, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, one of the things you've done there is you've set conditions, right? You've set actual conditions for yourself, and I recommend you do this all the time. Maybe not as severe as what he's done, but like, maybe wind yourself up to the conditions, right? Yeah. Set conditions, basically. I have to achieve this. I have to achieve this. What you've done is you've set a no-fail condition, right?
So?
If you fail, basically, right?
Pretty
so,
much.
don't fail and you'll be fine.
That's
and
it.
I continue to live in that way today. Like, as long as I don't fail, it's pretty cool. So, just don't fail. Fairly straightforward.
And I literally, I remember those words from the old boy, and he said that to us. He's like, well, I'm not helping you. He says, this is all
you're
on
on your
you.
own, mate.
He's like, if you want to do this, he says, you've got the skills, you've got the knowledge. He says, you need to learn, you need to adapt, you build your business. He says, you've got to do it. And I sat there and I thought, right, I need to put 100% effort in. I had the passion about the business. I seen my goals, I set myself goals and I do it, and I always recommend it every single year. Set goals out for the year. If
Yep.
it's writing it down on a bit of paper, a whiteboard, whatever it is, set your goals out for the year for the business. Even if you don't achieve those goals, don't see it as a failure, because you're one step closer to them.
Yep. Yep.
And I literally, the best advice I can say is just pour your heart and soul into it.
My niece, New Hope, like my niece Hope, she apparently, I've only heard her say it once, it's not apparently, I've heard it, Nicole kept telling me about it. She says, right, practice makes progress, right? Which is, it's not how I would have looked at it historically. Perfect practice makes perfect, in my opinion. But what she says, that's just like, stuck with me. Practice does make progress. We've already talked about making mistakes. Make mistakes, just don't let them fold you. Make the right kind of mistakes. Don't take huge risks. And I resonate with that though, mate. Like having that passion in your business, actually making sure. I didn't know I had a passion for this business until I was in it. To be fair,
That's it.
I was like, but I'm very analytical, right? I'm like, is this a move that I can make that's going to work for me?
Absolutely.
I've got a different brain, so I'm like, I've got a lizard brain, right, big time. So I'm like, is this a thing that's going to work? Yes or no? It's binary for me.
Yeah.
When I seen that my business was going to work, I then started to develop a real passion for it. And I was like, actually, this is really cool. I'm going to keep pressing, and I just sort of fell in, like, and fell out of my other job and into it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, I'm an entrepreneur now. What have I done?
Well, that's it. I mean, I've got a friend of mine, he'd done that with his business. He was actually originally a taxi driver. He was doing that pretty much, I say full time. It was more or less a 3 or 4 day a week job. And then he was doing another job within a completely separate industry. And he was running it from his house. And I mean, he slowly but surely, effectively, it was basically like a set of scales. It became slowly but surely more
yeah,
full
it just
time.
takes over.
And then eventually it was like, you know what, I'm going to go full time. I'm going to go in. He asked me my advice.
I almost had whiplash for my scale change,
But it can be done. He's a prime example of that. You're a prime example of that as well. You decided, you know what, I have my passion there, I want to do it. It's the best advice I can say. If you are going to do it, don't go in and don't go half-hearted, because if you go in half-hearted, you're going to get half-hearted results. You need to go in and go
the
for it.
critical message for me there is if you're going to do it, I definitely get it done and do it at the right speed for you.
Yeah.
If you want to do it fast, do it fast. If you can do it fast. If you need to do it slow and transition it, then do that as well.
Yeah.
The options are there for you, basically.
Absolutely.
I think, like, it's probably about time. I think I should probably go at my children, right? So, obviously we've no shot in the car today, nor have I shot at the school as normal. But I hope that was an insightful, it's basically just me drooling for like 45 minutes, I think, but like an insightful conversation, especially with a different kind of business owner in a completely different environment to myself. Hopefully you took value from that. If you didn't, then make a complaint, I suppose. But if you did, then you're welcome, and I hope you enjoyed it. As always, I'm looking for more information about the problems that you guys have got in your business. If there's something that you want to explore or something you want to ask a question about, get it in the comments and I'll make a video on it. I'd love to do it. I'm going to go back and answer your comments after this as well. So I've got some other video now that I need to get back to. So I absolutely hit me up on Instagram if you don't want to leave a comment. My link is somewhere. It's going to be somewhere, I promise. I'll also tag you, Liam, in this one as well.
absolutely,
You can go and speak to Liam. Go and look at his cars. He's got nice cars. Go and look at his cars on his IG. And obviously, like I said in the middle, if you've got a small business and you know you've got an energy situation going on, you don't know where to get your energy from, and it's no a go compare situation, get in touch with him, man. He'll sort your bills out. As cheap as £100 a month, he said.
That's even cheaper. We actually do it even cheaper than
There you
that.
go. He's got an even cheaper package than £100 a month.
it.
So if you're running a more traditional business that's different from me, you know you've got property, you get that sort of situation, you get energy requirements. Definitely get in touch with a guy. He'll help you out.
Even if it's just to ask questions or a
you
bit
go.
of advice, whatever it is, here at help.
Top man. Right, remember hit the subscribe button, get that bell on so that you get notifications when I upload. I'm going to upload 5 days a week like I said. And yeah, hope you all have a cracking day. Peace.